Welcome to Drive the Daf. Clear, structured explanation of the daily Daf in 20 minutes. You can even follow in the car.
Taanis Daf begins with a Mishnah, but is mostly Agadata. The Mishnah is the one we've seen quoted recently as to when we stop saying V'sein Talmater Levracha. Machlokes on that topic. The Gemara will try to understand the Mishnah by defining what the term Malkosh means. The Gemara will have a kasha and an answer on that. And the Gemara will enter with a story from Navi, which the Gemara will explain. This will take us into Agadata. And then the Gemara will have a list of questions asked by Rav Nachman to Rav Yitzchak, which he answered in the name of Rav Yochanan. And that will take us to the end of the daf, to one famous Gemara at the end in the conversation between Rav Nachman and Rav Yitzchak. So the Mishnah begins. How long do we say how long do we say V'sein Talmater Levracha? When do we stop saying it? The Mishnah says it's a Machlokes. We know that it's in Nisan. Rav Yehuda says it's until Pesach is over. We've seen a couple of opinions of Amarayim on Daf Daled, so what that term means. Rav Meir says until Nisan is over. Now Rav Meir quotes a pasuk to support his position. The pasuk comes from Yoel and it says, "Vayored lachem geshem mora umalkosh berishon." And you got the rain of Yoreh and Malkosh, the two types of rain. The two seasonal rains are called Yoreh and Malkosh, like we say in Shema. So those came Barishon, they came in the first month of the year. So you see that the rains fill the entire first month of the year, the entire month of Nisan, and when Nisan is over, the rainy season is over, you stop asking for rain. So Gemara asks, Gemara begins, Gemara says, Rav Nachman asked Rav Yitzchak, this is the first of many things on this daf that Rav Nachman asked Rav Yitzchak. Rav Nachman asked, how could he have Yoreh in Nisan? Yoreh is in Cheshvan. There are two rains of the year, one at the beginning of the rainy season and one at the end, two main rains. The one in Cheshvan is called Yoreh, the one in Nisan is called Malkosh, but this pasuk here says that Moreh is in Nisan. What's going on? So the Gemara says that he answered in the name of Rav Yochanan, and he said this is the incident from the Navi Yoel. There was a specific incident that happened there where there was extra rain in the month of Nisan. It was a specific nace that happened, and that's why Yoreh, which usually comes in Cheshvan, came in Nisan. Gemara quotes the pasuk in Yoel, which describes it. It says, "Yeser hagazim achal arba." The extra food was eaten by the arba. Yeser arba achal yelek. The food was eaten by the yelek. Other types of locusts. Yeser yelek achal hachasil, what was left over by the Yelek was eaten by the chasil. Everything was eaten, and it was a major famine. And the Gemara proceeds to describe the entire incident. The Gemara says it was a major famine. It was after 7 years of the famine. There was no food left. It had already reached the month of Adar, and there was no rain. All the way through the month of Adar, there was no rain. Now, then came the first rainfalls came in the first day of the month of Nisan. Aleph Nisan, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, came what was called Revia. The first rainfall is supposed to make the ground begin to sprout. So the Navi, Yoel, said to Klal Yisrael, he said, go and plant. Now's the time, go and plant, it's going to grow. So they said, I understand you. We barely have any food left. We have a measure or two of wheat or barley. We should go plant it. We're not going to have anything to eat. This is all we have to eat. We can't afford to plant it. So he said to them, they said to him, should we plant and starve to death, or should we save it and then we'll have what to eat? So he said, no, go plant anyway. So they went and they planted. They listened to him, and a miracle happened. They were able to find other grain to eat in the meantime. What was the miracle? They found grain that was hidden by the mice and the insects. In the walls, they found grain hidden by the mice. In the holes, the ant holes in the ground, they found grain stored up by the ants. They took that and they were able to eat that for a couple of days. And then what happened was as follows. On the second day of the month of Nisan, they planted. The third and the fourth, they also planted. Rain came down on the fourth day. And then again on the fifth day. So rain came on the fourth and the fifth day. And then the crops grew, and they grew so that by the 16th of the month of Nisan, just 11 days later, they were full height. They grew fully grown within just 11 days. So the Gemara says this was astounding. A miracle, 6 months worth of grain growth happened in 11 days. And the Karban Omer, which is usually brought on the 16th of the month of Nisan, which is usually brought from grain that is 6 months old, was brought from grain that was only 11 days old. Now the Gemara says this is the generation about which we say in Tehillim, Hazorim B'dimma, those who plant in tears, Marina Yiktzeru, will reap the harvest in glad song. Halach yalech uvacha, those who go along crying. Nosa meshach hazara, pulling the seeds. Bo yavibrina will return with glad song. Nosi alamosav, carrying their bundles of grain. So what does this all mean? So the Gemara says halach yalech uvacha nosa meshach hazara. That's like a ox. An ox is pulling the plow to cut into the earth in order to plant, and he's crying because he's got nothing to eat. And on his way back, when he finishes one row, he's on his way back to start the next row, there's already plants growing, he already has what to eat. And that's Bo Yovo Brin, on his way back, he's already happy. Now, what does Nosei Alamosav mean? The Gemara says that the crops grew so much that the size of the ear, the size of the actual grain, was twice as tall as the stalk part of the plant. Usually, the stalk plant is much larger than the grain part of the plant, but here was the other way around. Okay, now the Gemara brings other conversations between Rav Nachman and Rav Yitzchak, where Rav Nachman asked a question and Rav Yitzchak answered in the name of Rav Yochanan. So, first of all, is the pasuk in Malachim which says, Ki Kara Hashem l'ra v'gam ba el aretz sheva shanim, that there was a 7-year famine. So Gemara wants to know, what did they eat all those 7 years? How did they survive through 7 years of a famine? If there was no rain, there was no crops, how did they survive for 7 years? So he said, Rav Yochanan answered like follows. The first year, they ate what they had stored up in their house. The second year, they ate what was still out in the fields. They hadn't harvested. The third year, they ate their animals. They ate their kosher animals. The fourth year, they ate their non-kosher animals. Getting intense here. The fifth year, they ate rodents and insects. The sixth year, they ate their children. And the 7th year, they ate their own arms. And this is a fulfillment of the pasuk, Ish b'sar zero yechelu, a man will eat his own arm. Next question, Rav Nachman said, Rav Yitzchak, what is pshat in the pasuk in Hosea, which says, Lo esachron api, lo ashav l'shachis Ephraim, ki kel anochi, v'lo ish b'kirbecha, kadosh v'lo b'kirbecha, kadosh v'lo aval b'ir. You are holy. Inside you there is holiness, therefore I will not come into the city. What does the fact that there is holiness within you have to do with me not coming into the city? So Gemara says that he said, in Rav Yochanan, the answer was that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm not going to come to Yerushalayim Shel Mala. The city refers to the heavenly Yerushalayim, until I first come to the Yerushalayim Shel Mata. Because you have holiness within you in the lower Jerusalem, I'm not going to go to the higher Jerusalem until you've been restored and returned to the city in which you belong. So Gemara says, is there a Yerushalayim Shel Mala? Is there a heavenly Yerushalayim? So Gemara says, yes, there is. As we see in the pasuk in Tehillim, Yerushalayim HaBnuya Ki Ershe Chubala Yachdav, Yerushalayim the rebuilt, is a joining of two cities, the heavenly city and the upper city. That is, I should say, the heavenly city and the lower city. Okay, next question that was asked. So Gemara says, what is the pshat in the pasuk in Sefer Yirmiyahu? Uva'achas yivaru v'yichsalu musar havolim eitu. And they're all together foolish and stupid. These people, they take musar havolim. If you try to give them some kind of rebuke, they're like a piece of wood. So Gemara says, what does this mean? So Gemara interprets it al pi drush. Again, Yitzchak quotes of Yochanan. Achas means there was one. It was one avera. It was one ksil. Yiksalu. It was one avera, which is going to come back to haunt them in Gehenim, and that is the sin of avodah zarah. How do you know it's referring to that? Because here it says about musar havolim heitu. Uses the word havolim. And then you have again in Yirmiyahu, a couple of psukim later, Hevel Hema Maseim Tatuim Be'es B'Gedosim Yavedu. Hevel Hema there refers to Masei Tatuim, disgusting deeds, and therefore it's referring to Avodah Zarah. So you see that the term Hevel refers to Avodah Zarah. Next question that Rav Nachman asks is, what is meant by the pasuk in Yirmiyahu? Kishtayim ra'is asa ami. 2 evil things were done by my nation. And says, what do you mean 2 evil things? They did 24 evil things. The Torah lists in Sefer Yecheskel 24 averos that they did. Why here are we only talking about 2 of them? More says, no, the drush over here is not, we don't understand it to mean that they did 2 things, but we mean that their one avera was worth 2 things. It was reckoned as 2 problems. That is the avera of Avodah Zarah. And the reason that it's such a problem is because when they do it, there's a twofold issue. First of all, they're worshipping nonsense. Second of all, they left the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who was the only source, the only true divinity in the world. And the Gemara quotes the pasuk pasuk in full. Kishlaim ros asami osi azu mkarmayim chayim lachzav v'hem be'eros nishbarim. They left. There were two evil things which my people have done. They left me the source of living water, in order to dig for themselves wells which are broken and contain nothing. Then compare that to the pasuk in Yirmiyahu. Actually, two psukim earlier that says ki ivru iyechitim v'ro v'kedar shilchu v'izbanim od ru'u hein hoizakazos. See, the people of the Kitiim and the Kedar people, look what they do. Hahemer goyo like him. Does a nation switch its God? V'hemer like him, for one which is, and their God is not a God. Ami hemer kevodo below yoel. And my people, they went and they exchanged their God for no purpose, without it helping them at all. So the Gemara says what happens is as follows. We're discussing here the Kitiim and the Kedar people. So the Kitiim serve fire, and the Kedar people serve water. Now, even though the Kedar people even though the Kutiim know that water puts out fire, they do not change. Their God is the fire. They don't care the fact that water seems to be more powerful. Then they don't switch. Yet, Klal Yisrael, they go ahead and they switch me. They switch me out for some Avodah Zarah, and this is twice the problem. First of all, they take an Avodah Zarah. Second of all, I'm the only true source. I'm the only true divinity, and they go and they switch me out. Okay, next question of Menachem Nasser Yitzchak. What is the meaning of the pasuk Vayihi Kasher Zaken Shmuel? Now, Shmuel became old. The end of Shmuel's life. So the Gemara says that the problem is that Shmuel didn't become old. Shmuel was a grand total of 52 years old when he passed away. So it couldn't have been that he was ever old. And we have a brisa that says that the brisa lists when people should be concerned about krisus, and it says that somebody dies at 52. It's not a sign of krisus. It's not a sign that he died young because of krisus, because that is the age of Shmuel. That's how Shmuel Hanavi, who's called Shmuel Haramasi, because he's from Ramah. That's how old Shmuel was when he died. So that was the question. Why does it say that he became old? So Gemara says that he answered. Rav Yochanan says that he did become old. He became old at a young age. He aged early, and the reason for it, and his reason is based on the pasuk, which the Gemara quotes, where Hashem said, "Nichamti ki imlachti es Shaul." Hashem said to Shmuel, "I'm upset. I've changed my mind. I regret, as it were, that Akash Baruch Hu could do so, that I made Shaul the king." So Gemara says that Shmuel answered Akash Baruch Hu in a prayer, and he said, "Rabbanu Shalom, Master of the world, Shakalti Moshe Aaron, I've been considered to be like Moshe and Aaron, because it says in Tehillim, Moshe Aaron B'chalinav Shmuel B'kar Shemoy. So I've been held equal to Moshe and Aaron. And Moshe and Aaron, you did not destroy, you did not cancel their handiwork in their lifetimes, because Yeshua took over from them, and they didn't see the destruction of Klal Yisrael and the exile during their lifetimes. So how could I see the loss of my handiwork in my exile? How could I see the death and the passing of Shaul, who I appointed as king, in my lifetime? So the Gemara says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, so what should I do? To kill Shaul now I can't do, because Shmuel said a good tefillah. I can't allow Shmuel to see the loss of his appointee. To kill Shmuel, to bring about the death of Shmuel, that's improper, because he's young. And people are going to start saying, well, why did he die young? It must have been he had some Avera. So that I can't do. Not to kill either of them I can't do, because one kingship has to end when the next one is about to begin, and the Malchus of David has already been created. It's already time for that. So there's no other solution. I have to make Shmuel look old right away. That way he could pass from the world early, but people won't say that it must be some Avera, because they'll just see that he got old. They won't assume that he was really young. They won't know his true age. So therefore, Shmuel became old quickly. And that's the meaning of the pasuk. Shaul Yoshev beGiva tachas Eshel barama. Shaul sat in Giva under the tree in Ramah. So this is what it means. Was it Giva or was it Ramah? Giva was where Shaul lived. Ramah was where Shmuel lived. The says no. The meaning is that the reason that Shaul remained alive in Giva is because of Shmuel who davened in Ramah. Because of the tefillah of Shmuel in Ramah. That's how this entire order of events came about. So Gemara asks, is it possible that Shmuel died because of some decree that happened to Shaul? Why should Shmuel lose his life because something that happened to Shaul? So Gemara says, no, it does happen. It is possible, because a person could pass away because of a Kadosh Baruch Hu's decree, even if he doesn't particularly deserve it. Like the pasuk says, "Alkein chasafti b'nevim haraktim beimrei fi b'maseh." So that Hashem says, I caused the death of Nevi'im with my mouth. not to say that it was not through their actions, not through something that they deserved, but it's through my mouth, through my decree, and that's how it happens. Okay, now the Gemara says Rav Nachman and Rav Yitzchak were sitting together at a Suda, at a meal. Rav Nachman said to Rav Yitzchak, "Can you say some Torah?" So he said, Rav Yochanan says, "You don't talk during a meal." And so that is Torah, but he's also explaining that he's not going to say anything now, he'll say something later. But why should a person not talk during the meal, lest he end up inhaling his food and choking, and it could become a dangerous situation. So after the food was over, after they finished eating, so he said a few things. So he said, this is what Rav Yochanan said, Yaakov Avinu never died. So Rav Nachman said he never died, so then was it for nothing that they eulogized him and they embalmed him and they buried him? How do you understand? Why did they do those things if he was alive? So he said, look, you have good kashas, but I'm darshaning a pasuk. The pasuk says, it's a pasuk in Yirmiyahu. It says, V'altira avdi Yaakov no Hashem v'altechas Yisrael ki hineni Mashiach me'rachak ve'zarcha me'eretz Shivyon. Don't be afraid, my servant Yaakov, says Hashem, and don't fear Yisrael. I'll save you from far, and your children from the land of their captivity. V'shav Yaakov v'shakad v'shanan v'ein machrin. Yaakov will be returned and peaceful and tranquil, and there'll be no fear. So you see a connection between Yaakov and his children, Yaakov and Klal Yisrael. Just like Klal Yisrael never end, they never pass from the world, Yaakov also never ended and never passed from the world, and therefore they are both alive. They'll both be restored as before. Says Rav Nachman, other things in the name of Rav Yitzchak. Says Rav Yitzchak, other things in the name of Rav Yochanan. Somebody who said the name of Rachav, the Zona Rachav, so he would have a carry, he would have a seminal emission immediately just upon saying the name Rachav, saying the name twice. So Gemara says, if Rav Nachman said, what do you mean? I can say that name and it doesn't have any effect on me. Rachav, here I go. So he said, no, that's because you didn't know her and you didn't see her. But had you known her and recognized her, just a memory inspired by saying the name would cause that effect. Something more says that they were ready to part from each other, and he said, give me a bracha. It doesn't say who said it, and he said, give me a bracha. So it would seem to be that Rav Yitzchak said to Rav Nachman to give me a bracha. So Rav Nachman said the famous mashal. He said, I'll tell you a mashal as to what it's like. It's like somebody who is traveling through the wilderness. He's hungry and tired and thirsty, and he comes and he finds a tree filled with beautiful fruit, with shade and a stream of water flowing under it. He eats from the fruit, drinks from the water, sits in the shade, and he wants to get up. He says, tree, how should I bless you? If I say you should have sweet fruits, you already have it. If I say you should have pleasant shade, you already have it. If I say you should have a stream of water flowing beneath you, you already have it. So what can I bless you with? That all other trees which come from you should have the same thing, the same wonderful conditions that you have. Same thing applies to you. He said, I should bless you with the Torah, you already have it. I bless you with riches, you already have it. I bless you with children, you already have children. One blessing I could give you is that those descendants of yours should have the same conditions which you have and have so graciously shared with me.
Drive the Daf is a project of the Grand Woodlands Shul and is presented by Rabbi Yitzchak Landa. Find us on YouTube or subscribe to daily emails by emailing drivethedaf@gmail.com.